Francisco had, whoops, sorry. I've got it on the side here. Rise higher, team cup, Francisco Felicio. Francisco got his first now legacy DTM at D40 at a time when things allowed him to drive around for amazing home club meetings and top-notch conferences. Way back when we experimented also with what he calls AOA, yes, that allow online attendance choice, that once made us wonder what it was it actually meant. Which today we are rather clear about how both it is potential and its pitfalls. So why is Rising Higher with y'all here today? After all, he was then able not to only charter a home club in his hometown, but he also volunteered to help as an area director on his new district, eventually finding his way to being the one current member of the videographer team under the PRM. Today, he would like to not only explain the specifics of what he is working on for his graduate degree, as he has already heard here some interesting about doing more YouTube, but also entertaining thoughtful Q&A on the topic of collaborative online content creation. He would also like to embed a plea for those who helped put together D40 speech contest to help him now with D11, as he is attempting to document the process through this winter, as it will be used there for the first time on April 23rd and 24th. Congratulations. Otherwise, since this is also about encouraging everyone to create better postings using Zoom and YouTube, that he shares these first drafts of his vision, hoping to generate some questions and, yes, also line up those who may want to join his ongoing level 5 elective HPL now that he is a member of both districts. Francisco Felicio, collaborative content creation and curation. Woo.
Thank you, Liz. Amazing read of, I know it's a convoluted intro. That was a speech unto itself. And here's my backup slide. Wendy talking about slides. I couldn't get it on. That's why I have the TV in the back. The other day I was able to do it and today I couldn't. And that's what my session today is about. We are now in the age of whatever you want to call it, interactive technology. At the beginning of the session, I heard some great comments about competitive speakers putting on a worldwide or global session last night. It encourages me to hear that. And that is why I reached out to Kathy and said, hey, Kathy, that's what you told me in Colorado. How's that going? And I don't know if Kathy heard that we're done today. Thank you, Timer, for that. Timer Betty.
But, yes, I heard. Thank you.
Great. So 2 things. 1, let me take a quick extra minute to introduce myself. I am a tech guy. I'm an IT guy. That's my day job. I love the Toastmaster thing. And guess what? I got a chance to finally get to my master's. I love technology. These things with Zoom, as I said before, I experimented with not only a club that we chartered 3-4 years ago, but also at what used to be my home club, Voice of Independence. They were doing this before we all had to click on this allow online attendance checkbox. That's what's kept us going through this year. And I'm going to say it again, in my opinion, that's what's going to propel us into the next century. We're 4 years away from the 100th anniversary of Toastmasters. It will be interesting to see what we come up with. And that's what this speech and this project is about. I named it C4 for collaborative content creation and curation. Why? I had heard rumors, because as I explained before, our district did not do it, that in order to submit to international for the extra levels, I believe the semifinals, the regionals, and the finals, it had a process. And that's why when I was asked to design, that's the one of the videos that I put on the email yesterday, to design what's called an instructional intervention. I said, hey, I'm the only guy in the videographer team here. This is going to require a lot of training. We just had a first round of training last week. Our PQD, Scott Brown, closed it up by saying, practice, practice, practice. So when I presented the HPL kickoff speech, which is, I'm trying to bring pieces of that into this, to this new club that I'm joining, the idea was for us to practice. And practice how? Every bit of content that we're able to create here by simply hitting record, in my opinion, my personal opinion, this is the stuff that people need to see. Why? One, a large percentage are amazing speeches per se. I mean, I did a visit to a club as an area director. The best explanation I've heard on the building a social media presence project, poof, just went away. And I thought to myself, gosh, if that would have been on that club's Facebook page, that would have been amazing. So that's the collaborative content and creation and curation HPL that I'm working on, that it transformed itself into my instructional intervention that I'll be working on during my graduate degree at Ashford University. What is an instructional intervention? I don't know how many of you are in education. I'm nowadays amazed at what educators do. But one of the sources that I read explained, and I kept it in my head because he had a magic word, he said, when you break it down, to make a good slice of buttered toast, it takes 427 steps. What? Actually, I think it's a TED Talk out there, very famous one, TED Talks, that talks about the details of what it takes to explain something. Just now, I gave a bit of an evaluation, a point of view on that. And that is what I am suggesting for people to do when they're at Zoom. Ask for that record button, save it, and put it on YouTube. I put that also out there yesterday, and I'm moving into the actual instructional intervention. I'm envisioning being able to explain over 3 or 4 hours on social media. That's the delivery. It's going to be social network-based learning. How to, one, brand, which is what I used. I was planning to put it back there, which is to brand your video so that this slide shows up on the YouTube thumbnail slide. 2, work with the host on all the details that it takes to do the recording, do the spotlight video and whatnot. And 3, show people how to feel comfortable loading these videos to their own YouTube channel. And what I mean by their own YouTube channel is that from there, it could be a select few that see it, or it could be the world. It's up to you what you want to show. So as we move into the Q&A session again, this is an instructional intervention that I'm designing, aiming squarely at giving District 11 the tools to review on their own. I know a lot of people may know this already. International has put out some amazing materials, of course, but as the videographer, I want to put something out there that if somebody wants to help with their area, division, or of course the district contest, they have something else to look at and perhaps resources to comment on. Like I said, the delivery method is social network-based learning that they call it. So that's what I'm after. Again, I'm inviting anybody who wants to help with the guidance committee or wants to point me out. I already saw a source here who to contact in 40. I know it's a lot, and that's why I said the Q&A session project would be ideal for that. And with that, any questions? Thank you.
Awesome. Raise your hand, question, open your mic if you have a question or a thought about what he said.
Francisco, I have a question. I believe I understood the idea, and part of what you said was an excellent speech went poof because no one saved it and it was gone. So are you suggesting there's one central repository, or that we individually load our speeches onto YouTube?
Excellent question, Colleen. Anybody who has a Gmail account, guess what? You have a YouTube quote unquote channel.
Okay.
It can be as easy as saying, hey, I recorded this after the meeting. I hopefully will have a file. How do I load it? Like everything technology, there is like 2 or 3 ways of doing it. More than one way to skin a cat. I love cats. I have a bunch of cats. But the point is, encourage people to do it on their own, because in my opinion, the bottleneck of saddling one person or 2 with, hey, here's a video, load it. It does take 20 minutes. It does take half an hour. It takes a little longer. For example, this person that I use my example for, that seems to be her business. So if you're a professional wanting to do more of this, you may want to examine, hey, how do I put this on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook? I mean, there's 2 or 3 places. The project right now is focused on putting it on Facebook. And yes, Colleen, it's for individuals to put it on their own channel and then distribute. Thank you.
Awesome.
So, in addition to that, then, so we can have a goal for our newly launched club, since we have 20 people, is to challenge folks to save their speech and include that as part of our routine meeting. We could.
In a way, I'm throwing the gauntlet. Yes, that would be, in my opinion, a worthy goal, that as we move forward, the ideal form of PR nowadays, how do we explain this? But through, I would say, recreating, doing cellular division on that club experience video that International has out there that so many of us have shared. How about we start sharing our own club experiences? So yes, that's my suggestion. That's my invitation. And that's not an answer. That's an echo. So if anybody else wants to say something about that, please.
Hey, Francisco, this is Gail Kelson. First of all, thank you for your speech. I find it to be very informative. I also have a background in IT, and anytime any conversation comes up about that subject matter, it certainly intrigues me. One of the things that I thought was very valuable with your speech was the information that you shared and the way in which you shared it, which is really more of a motivational opportunity, particularly with regard to sharing the Toastmasters Club experience. So this is what my question is, and it's really a point of clarification. So yes, those of us who do have Gmail accounts do automatically have a YouTube channel, for an example. Are you suggesting that we only share the portion of the recording of our speech, or are you suggesting that we share a recording of the entire club? For an example, Zoom, when we give our speeches. The reason I'm asking this question is it kind of goes to the privacy matter. There are, in some cases, where we have to really be careful about what we share, the images that we share of other people on social media without their consent. Could you just kind of clarify that a little bit in terms of how you think that would work?
Excellent question, Gail. And that was part of and that's why I'm so happy I'm doing this with a framework from a school. There was a whole ethical, political, and legal consideration portion. I wrote very subtly on my invitation yesterday, I know the club embraces it. Again, in the past, I know that clubs have somehow put it on their bylaws, posted it somewhere, made it part of the agenda. I should have, and I got, that's a flag on the play. I should have, and that's why, put it up is this okay? Those of you, for example, who use other tools like Microsoft Teams, it will tell you privacy nowadays at work and all that, definitely, that is super relevant. So thank you for bringing that up. I don't have a question other than use a release, 1, and 2, ask, have the courtesy to ask. I tried, the email was getting so long, I actually had to cut it back. I wrote a whole blurb and please let's accept this as an implied release. I said, I know the club embraces it. So I hope the club embraces it. But yes, if anybody right now says, don't put it out there, they have that right. So it's something, again, it's a deeper level of not just technology, but ethics that we need to look at. Excellent question. Thank you, Gail.
I just want to tag on that is you talk about asking people if it's okay, is we have suggested that if somebody is on the call and does not wish to be on the recording, to hide themselves so that their picture is not being shown. There are people who don't need the rest of the world to know where they are. Therefore, they have decided to they want to still participate in the meeting, but they just take themselves off and just hide the camera.
And thank you, Liz. That's what, for example, last week, that's what our PQD did. He says, we are going to record, release. And second, if you want to stay, just turn off the camera. Irony, the one guy that turned off the camera made the most questions. So it is an excellent example of the things that we now need to learn and perhaps codify. I know International has a video release because we used it before for other places. But in practical terms, that's an excellent application. It covers, we ask, if you're not, just, you know, turn off your camera, and it's kind of covers it, but if they jump in, are they okay with that? So I'm gonna leave that as a question to the group. Is it okay to just say, turn off your camera, but then you chime in? What do you think?
Maybe they just don't want their picture taken. And that's okay. But that is part of the contest. You will need to have a video release from every contestant, just an FYI.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I got the, thank you for the information, and thank you, Gail, for the contact. I started reading through the materials just this week. So if was anybody part of putting together your district or division contest? Does anybody have a story to tell about that before we're done?
I was instrumental in part of it. I know Gail mentioned Lavinia. Lavinia and I worked on it. I was her mentor when she and Richard did the first session, and then she and I co-chaired the division or district.
So my goal was met. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Again, you know, if you just want
Also in many of those meetings, but we started initially with Lexington, which is one division, and then we went to multi-divisions in Lexington and in Cincinnati and Columbus, and G did their own, A did their own. So we were helping everyone participate.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Gail.
And we are at green. That perhaps gives me one or two more questions before I hit stop on the recording. And yes, talking about releases, when we go to the round robin after the break, is it okay if we record that too? Please let us know. And Kathleen had her hand raised. Kathleen?
Yeah. Do you have any plans to talk about things for when COVID is becoming a part of our past and we start meeting either partially or fully in person? When we had our very first video contest pre-COVID, we had cameras set up in the room. We went and we looked at lighting, we looked at sound. There are certain rules. You're not allowed to edit the video. Is there any plans to also discuss videotaping in that relationship and how to get them to TI or maybe on the web if you're videotaping a club, so that when we transition to that again, we'll be able to do it? That's it.
Kathy, this is just an opinion. When I read and I hear what you're saying, I saw that on one of the guidelines. Actually, it was hidden between a couple of links, all the technical details. I think this is a great experience for everyone because we're going to be better videographers. Again, that's why I'm here. I'm the one guy doing videography for D11. I'm looking for others, and my enticement, my incentive is, hey, would you like to look at this and learn more for you? Because ultimately, all these techniques, again, as professionals, as part of our corporate arenas, content can be produced relatively easy once we know the rules. So I don't know the answer, the full answer to that, but I assume there'll be a transition period. And I hope that we bring a lot of this expertise back into regular traditional meetings, because personally, right now I'm doing a backup copy. I have my external camera on my old laptop of this. It will save at least my speech. And I do that often because whatever happens, I know I had a backup. I'm an IT guy. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Okay, we're at yellow. And we started a bit late. So thank you, everybody. Again, the invitation is out there. You have the email with some extra links. Those links are actually samples of this. Unless it's specified otherwise, let me go into the legalese. Unless it's specified otherwise, I will post this to an unlisted link for the club to look at first. And then I'll wait for the club to clear, hey, yeah, go ahead and make it public, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, hearing none. Okay. Again, is it okay if I hit record again? When are we gonna do the evaluations right now or after?
Well, you will do your evaluation now for you.
Okay, then I'm gonna just let I'm gonna let the camera roll then.
Okay.
Because, oh, somebody asked about that. I think I never answered that. Personally, I feel that rather than chunking up and making people to watch the whole session, we're better off saying, because not everybody wants it, it's work on something like this where you give the speech and you have the evaluation attached to it, and that's it. You know, this is long, but a regular speech would be less than 10 minutes, intro, speech, and evaluation. That's an awesome little package. That's a powerful way to share what we do, and again, create our own club experience.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. As a reminder for our evaluations, Francisco has asked, he's wanting to know how he handled the Q&A session, not necessarily just the presentation part, but how his Q&A and how he handled that. So that's what he's looking for in his evaluation. Our first person, anyone? Feedback?
I'll volunteer.
Awesome, thank you.
Francisco, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. This is really has my mind spinning in a lot of different directions about some things that we might be able to do with this club. So thank you for starting that process within my own brain. And I feel that your command of the Q&A session was excellent. One of the things I always look for is, are you in control or are you letting the audience control in a Q&A? And I definitely felt that you were in control. And every question, you took a breath, you said, thank you, or that's a very good question. And then you proceeded to answer. And even if you took a little bit of a turn in your answer, I felt like you were very knowledgeable and you acknowledged me as a person with a legitimate question. And I feel that you did an outstanding job. You might want to scale back some of the answers. You have so much knowledge to share. If you continue to talk, someone might zoom out a little bit, but that would be my only feedback in terms of answering of the questions. You definitely are a model there for keeping the audience engaged and inviting them in a safe environment to ask a question. Thank you for that.
Great. Thank you, Colleen. Anyone else have some thoughts or feedback? We've got some good evaluators here. Come on, somebody gives Francisco some feedback.
I would like to.
Great,
This is
thank you.
Cheryl. I thought it was a very interesting take on the topic. And I want to say that I love the phrase instructional intervention. I had never heard that before, and I thought it was really interesting. I thought you were really engaging. Your Q&A, I agree with the previous person. Your Q&A was really good. And being polite and allowing people to speak is so important, because it's easy as the person in control, it's easy to shut down the questions or not answer directly, or answer it the way you want to rather than answer the person. So I thought that was all very good. One thing I noticed is that you use your hands a lot. And frankly, I think this is kind of a good thing in our new environment, because when you're when you're online, a lot of times people will not use their hands at all. And we don't really see each other. Like if we see the little picture on the right, you wouldn't even notice. I mean, you can hardly tell if a person's using their hands or not. But I noticed you used your hands a lot, and I enjoyed that. I thought maybe a little to the extreme, but that's just a very minor thing. The entire speech was so good. I hate to even mention it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great feedback, Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Somebody else was gonna, Wendy, was that you? Yes.
Thank you, Francisco, for that great presentation. I thought your Q&A section was very well followed. You had command of it, as mentioned. You knew your material, and what was really important is when you didn't really have a good answer, when you did not have the answer, you said you didn't have the answer instead of just making up an answer. So that's very important, is to admit when you don't have the answer, but it's something you're always going to get back to. So I really appreciated that if you didn't have the answer, that you said, I don't know that answer specifically, because some people would just say, just make up an answer. So I thought that was really great that you really controlled the Q&A session. You're very open to the questions, and you were very informative with your answers that you did specifically know the answers to. You were very specific to it. And this was an area that I was very impressed with, because we have entered a whole new world. And, you had given me some feedback on my presentation. And I think this particular topic really leads to that, how we can all become better speakers, and the idea of recording ourselves and putting it out there. I think it pushes us all to a different level that I believe everyone, especially in this club, are really looking for. We're looking for the next level. So I really enjoyed the presentation, but your Q&A section of it, I thought you had control of your answers and what you didn't know. And sometimes we don't know the answers. What you don't know, you don't know. You always can go back and find that answer. So I really appreciated your Q&A section. Having problems talking today. Session very well. Thank you.
Anyone else before we take a break? Rick.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the hand movement, and I'm glad he had all the hand movement, but he, Francisco, you were using it, you were real rapid with it, and you were over here and stuff, and if it was just slowed down and be a little more precise of what you're trying to say, which would affect it a lot better, I believe, because when it moves around so much, it kind of distracted. That's the only thing I can say bad about anything. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. It's a challenge. And then the camera decides to autofocus or not. We're learning a new thing. This is a completely new ball of wax. And I feel the goal is to, like we did with Pathways, okay, what are the principles? Let's bring those principles to here, because even when we go back to, being in person in one place, I will bring a camera. I won't mind hitting the record and assume for a speech that's relevant. And who knows how many clubs are going to stay on blended hybrid. So it's a new thing. And thank you, Richard, for those details, because I know it can work both ways. It's like, what is that blur? Or, oh, he's doing something. He's using body language. So thanks.
Thank you. Francisco, I just want to make a comment. One of my 4 clubs, we have always, I was rephrase that, until he left about 6 months ago, we had a gentleman and we recorded all of our meetings, all of our sessions, and he would Dropbox them into our free Toast. So we've been doing it for years, and it's been really nice be able to prove that the evaluator, what they heard when the speaker says, oh, I didn't do that. I don't say that. Well, listen to your speech. Yes, you do. And you start to learn those things. I hear you about the hands because I'm a hand person. So that's, some of us have to tone that down. We have to learn that. So I feel for you, Francisco, there. But I do appreciate.
Or use the reactions on Zoom. I like the reactions on Zoom too. And I always have like a double reaction. Something I found, and I even added it to my school paper. The current world champion had an interview on Forbes. I don't know if anybody read it. He had a few pointers, and one of the pointers was, and since we're on a sports mode or theme today, watch the tape. Thank you for illustrating that, Liz. That's an extra level of evaluation to yourself, is to watch that tape and go like, oh yeah, I better put my hands down. So thanks.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I-
Anyone before we take our break?
Yeah, Liz, can I chime in a second? This is Betty.
Betty. Let's do Betty and then we'll do Kathy.
I just wanted to mention, as a member of Environmentally Speaking, we always taped our meetings too. And one thing we decided about getting permission, and Kathy's probably going to tell me we're not allowed to do this, but there's a nice little empty spot on the TM application, and we added a blurb saying that it was okay, that you didn't mind being taped during the meetings. So when people sign that application, and we pointed it out, we didn't sneak it in, you know, we told them about it and explained it to them, but it's a nice way to get it when they first join, and then it's done.
Well, now they have an application because of COVID and so many clubs go into virtual. So you can attach that to it. Or
Oh, well, there you go. That's even better.
yes.
They've had
Excellent
that for
point.
years.
Excellent point, Betty. Some people talk about putting it in the bylaws as well. Application bylaws everywhere. It's
Yes.
very important.
Kathy.
Yeah, they've had that form for years. The video form, I've used it for centuries. And no, Betty, I'm not going to say no. I think it's a great idea. And the only reason I would suggest stop using it is because I told you to. I'm not going to bring it up to them. I think it's an excellent way to do that. Some clubs use the separate video form, but either way. I know that people update their forms sometimes with their club name, their club number, and that's common practice. The one thing that I wanted to say, Francisco, is that I love your energy, and I hope you keep doing this for a long time with Toastmasters, because it's infectious. And we need a lot more people in Toastmasters to have the kind of energy that you have. So thank you. The one thing that I want to offer you as a present is to make sure you answer the question. Sometimes if you need to mull it over, you can repeat the question, but and I'm learning to do this myself because I've led Q&A sessions for Pathways before, just like you are. And I've learned that I really need to focus on the answer. And somebody just a week ago gave the suggestion to me, so I'll share it with you. And that is to answer the question concisely at first, then tell your story. And that way they will know you've answered it. The other thing that I did was I would write the questions down, just a word or two, to make sure that I came to that point. And the other thing is to reuse one of the words. So if somebody mentioned permission or something like that, you would reuse the word permission in your answer so that they would know you honed in on their question and had listened. And hopefully that will help you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy.
Awesome feedback, everyone. Awesome. All right, now is the time we take about let's say 5 minutes. And so we can take a break, go get some coffee, tea, beer, whatever. It's almost kickoff time. So let's go on and wrap up before we start our wonderful, exciting table topics. So 5 minutes. Timer